Good morning, Jim Cooper here. We're on the final day of Possible 2024, and we're really excited to welcome Bonin, who is the co-founder and chief strategy officer of Group Black, and Cavel, who is the chief growth officer at Group Black. So welcome, guys. How you doing?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so be really interested to hear what you guys thought about Possible and what were the more important conversations you've been having here.
Look, I think that the name alone kind of speaks to something that I think is important for the industry, which is how are we constantly chasing what's possible? I think the crowd has been great. I think the speakers have been great. I think the Group Black stage has been amazing. But I think the most important conversations we've had, so one of the things we work with Christian on is making sure that we had open stage, so you don't need a badge to come into our stage. And the reason why we did that was so that we could invite the Miami Ad Club, we invited advertising and marketing schools, university programs in, and some of the most important conversations I've had is with emerging up and coming marketers and advertisers that, are thinking about what the future of marketing will look like from their perspective because they're the next generation. So to me, that's been the most exciting. I love seeing all my friends, but at the end of the day, they don't got anything more interesting to say than me, so.
No, I'd agree. I think it's exciting to see sort of the convergence in this possible of the different conversations and how sort of everything is laser focused on growth and how even technology, we all know AI is here to stay. It continues to be a big part of the conversation, but on every stage, including ours, we're talking about how AI intersects with the other areas of growth and how we drive that. And we're building it together, right? So there's a point of view that's being built that feels like it's being more inclusive and thoughtful in this new area. So that has been interesting to see.
Okay, great. And you guys had some announcements this week, right? So can you unpack those really quickly and why they're important?
Yeah, so we announced our acquisition of Galore. Galore is Vogue of this generation. But more importantly, again, I think sometimes we forget the power of emerging talent because I did a little program called Dear Mr. President, and we had a tiny little influencer called Lady Gaga, which we paid a few K to at that time, but she was the number one, MySpace following. And what she drove for that program was bigger than any dollars we could have paid any big, celeb, because the fan base that follows behind that are focused on making sure that she succeeds and they're on the journey. And so what Galore has been able to do, when Bad Bunny came to the States, the first cover that he did was Galore. And so what Galore has been able to do is identify emerging talent. And so for us, that fervent nature of emerging talent is super important. And so Galore represents that new platform for us across Black and Brown. And then we announced She's Good, which is our Black female health platform. At the end of the day, we know that there's nobody servicing that community and really providing, access to knowledge and even more importantly to services. And then we're talking about our HBCU program and what we've been able to do, building the largest HBCU campus tour. And again, creating a connectivity with the universities and the students, but what people don't realize is that, why don't you talk about HBCU audience before I do? I don't want to talk about all the announcements, go ahead.
No, look, I think the main thing is that everything you see us announcing, whether it is HBCU, whether it is She's Good or Galore, is directly pointed to the feedback and challenges that we're all here talking about, which is how do you unlock growth? How are brands going to unlock growth in a more competitive environment, in an environment where brand loyalty or consumer loyalty is not as salient as it was at one time with a new generation. And so we do the work of looking through the data that we have to understand where are the untapped spaces. And so those three platforms that we talk about are three distinctly different untapped spaces that brands need to understand as they continue on the journey. And so we're driving against that.
But
That's an untapped space.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll just roll with it. So, yeah.
right. There you go.
You're rushing the stage.
You can tell by his answer why he's the chief growth officer. But anyway.
Right. Okay. So, Group Black is about 3 years old, right? Like, where?
About 3 years old, yeah.
So, where are you guys in your journey to sort of really sort of supercharge diverse-owned, media-owned marketplaces?
It's interesting because I don't know how long the journey is. So I can't tell you. But I'll tell you, I think that what we've been able to do, look, for every single one of our collective members, we are their largest client. I think what you see here is that in every single space that looks like a possible, a can, an advertising week, we provided a platform to have a conversation and to move the conversation from just diverse owned to the ability to invest in that community and unlock the growth that community has. If I told you there was a consumer that had $1.7 trillion of spending power, but yes, most brands index 10% if they're lucky, you'd say, where is this mythical consumer? Well, guess what? It's sitting right here, and that's not even the $3 trillion that exists in totality of spending beyond, or diverse audiences. And so the challenge is that we just haven't built the infrastructure to unlock that growth, but we know how to build infrastructure. It's called China, Brazil, India. We literally created the consumer infrastructure to unlock consumer growth there, and now we have to figure out how to do that here. But we can't do that without making sure that we're investing in the community that's representative of that community. And so I think that where we are in that journey is we have made sure that the industry at large understands what the growth opportunity is, and more importantly, I think we have put in place the sophistication from everything from targeting all the way through content creation, experiential media to measurement to help the industry do that in the best way possible. So I don't know where we are in the journey, but we've come a long way, if I can say that. I don't know if you...
No, I agree.
Cavel, if you could remove like one barrier that you see is really getting in the way of meaningful progress on this journey, what would it be?
So I think there's still a level of sophistication that we have to get to as an industry to fully understand the power of the capabilities and solutions we bring. If you look at how most of media is planned today and the tools that are used for both measurement, understanding of it, the effort hasn't been made yet to ingest the opportunities that we create broadly, not just Group Black, but the diverse owned ecosystem that has the most resonant content. The reason why diverse owned is important is because it resonates, and when it resonates, it converts. And so if you look at the planning tools that agencies and brands are leveraging to fast track how they media buy and drive against their goals, we have to integrate that, right, into those tools. Also, when you look at measurement, we need the measurement companies to really look and understand that this media is different than some of the media that they measure, and take the time, as they did in the past, to ingest it. When social first came out, no one could measure social. When creators first came out, no one could measure creators. It took time and discipline and the ecosystem partnering together, all sides, to be able to build the measurement so brands could understand how it was earning and delivering ROI. And I think that part of the work hasn't been done yet, and we're not going to be able to scale until we get there. Someone should be able to go into their planning tool that they have at an agency and understand the power of the collective and the audiences that Group Black is bringing to the table, that others in this space are bringing to the table. And today that just doesn't exist, and that's one of the biggest barriers right now.
Just real quick, I think that's important because we sit here at the MMA or at Possible, and when I took over at Mondelez as chief media officer, and I think I was one of the first, but that's neither here nor there. But my goal was to get to 10% spending in mobile. The industry had no clue. I went into the upfronts and said, I'm going to buy 10% in mobile. The networks they'd never seen anything like that. But none of that existed, the measurement. We were #1 mobile marketer for 3 years in a row, according to MMA. But beyond just, we moved from 3% to 32, 10% of that was digital. We added $2 billion of top line revenue and $300 million of bottom line. But at the time, nobody understood how to measure it until we, as the client, had to create the measurement system for ourselves. And so I think that part of the challenge here is that we need more clients to step up and say, we're going to force the industry to move. That's the only way it moves, is when the client says, this is exactly what I want, we're going to force the industry to move. And to his point, we're in the same stage that we were. It was a year of mobile for like a decade, dude. And so until clients started saying, this is exactly what I want, the industry doesn't move. So
what breaks that blockade with the client? Like, is it the measurement thing, or is it just a cultural thing? It seems pretty clear based on the dollars you just threw out. There's a real opportunity.
Look, the good news is a lot of our clients are doing that now, so that's exciting. I think it's making sure that we see more case studies in the marketplace to help the marketplace, move. Like when I was on the client side, I thought that was my biggest job, was to do the stuff that we all were talking about, but then turn around and showcase that case study to the world so that the world could see it and somebody could hold it up in a boardroom and say, hey, Pepsi did it, or Oreo did it, or whatever the case is. I think that to unlock that blockage is for us to continue to have that but the conversation needs to be about growth and not about, we couched it in this conversation around diversity, right? I spent my whole life as a growth driver, right? Whether it was Oreo was about to become irrelevant. We had reached every 6 to 12-year-old and everybody who owned a 6 to 12-year-old. So we had to change the target. And so that's where I think we need to start focusing on is, let's start talking about the growth opportunity that sits in front of us. Hey, Andrew, I'm over here. The growth opportunity that exists in front of us. I missed you last night. What happened? You're killing me. You were supposed to sit next to me. I had no dinner conversation. Eric as well. Anyway, sorry. I'll text you, fine. I just think that we have to start really talking about the growth opportunity that exists and beginning to peel back where, brands today, in general market, almost every brand is saturated. We know whether it's the census or whatever you look at population change, we know where new customers are going to happen, where they're getting younger and what they're going to look like. And that's where I think we need to shift the conversation to. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Last question. There's been a lot of talk about AI here. I mean, there are more than 20 speaking sessions that are AI themed. Do you think AI is a tool to help speed this growth that you'd like to see in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yes, I think so. I think, but AI is a tool. Let's be clear about that. And the inputs drive the outputs. And so we have to ensure that as we're on this journey of AI, that we're making sure that it is including more data points than what exists today. And so we're making investments into data that will feed into AI tools to help it understand not just, okay, here's the reach and the CPM, but also here is the quality of the content. Is the content unbiased? We have a solution where we can work with brands to say, hey, it's not just about reaching in the right environment. You have to make sure that the message and the content you're creating isn't biased, because then it will have a negative effect. And we have a tool that allows us to give content a bias score that leverages AI and training based on humans who have scored things, and then using AI as a tool to accelerate that and to train it, right? So AI is going to continue to play an important role. I also think the power of AI is helping brands to understand the one metric that is incredibly difficult to measure, but we all know is impactful, which is what is the power of culture on decisions? We know that we all make decisions based on cultural relevancy, based on resonance. You could call it hyper-personalization if you want. But we don't know how to measure that. And so leveraging the power of AI to say, how do we look at the impact of the personalization, the cultural relevance of the content, then put in the right place in front of the right audience, and how that measures versus just saying the way we measure now, last click, or just looking at the reach and the CPM and the efficiency as saying that's what drove the metric. Because as human beings, we know that's not what makes us move. What makes you move is when you identify with something that you feel represents you. But we don't know how to measure that yet in marketing, yet it's the most impactful.
All right, Bonin, Bough.
Yeah, let's leave it there. No, let's leave it there. That's great.
Okay, so Group Lax, Bonin, Bough, and Cavel, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.